You chose that person for a reason, and the reason has nothing to do with love. Everything you do in relationships was programmed into you before you could even talk. You didn't develop your relationship patterns. They were installed by the people who raised you. The person you keep falling for looks different every time, but they feel exactly the same. You chase the one who pulls away because that feeling of chasing is the only love your body has ever known. You push away the one who actually shows up and then wonder why you're always alone. You keep everyone at arm's length and call it independence, but your hands are empty and you know it. Too clingy, too distant, never just right. That's not your personality, that's your attachment style running the show. Someone is literally pouring love into you and you feel nothing because something inside you won't let it land. Your partner didn't do anything wrong. Your nervous system just announced that danger is coming based on a memory from 20 years ago. You're not checking your phone because something is wrong. You're checking it because silence once meant something terrible was about to happen. They keep reassuring you, and it keeps not being enough, because what's missing inside you isn't something they put there, and it isn't something they can fix. You finally find someone stable and kind and available, and all you feel is bored. And that boredom is the most important data point you have ever ignored. You keep 4 people in rotation and call it options, but what you're actually doing is making sure no single loss can ever break you. That argument that destroyed everything started with something so small because the argument was never about what it was about. The explosion followed by the intense makeup feels like passion. It is not passion. It is a cycle, and cycles repeat until you break them. You want them close, and when they get close, you need them gone. And living inside that contradiction is exhausting in a way you can't explain to anyone. You push them away to see if they'll come back, and if they come back, you push harder, because what you're actually testing was never about them. You have watched yourself destroy good relationship after good relationship and still called it bad luck. It was never bad luck. The moment you finally see your own pattern clearly is not a relief. It is one of the most uncomfortable things you will ever experience, and it is also the only exit. Your attachment story is a knot, and knots don't unravel on their own, but every knot has one thread that starts the whole thing coming apart. The first time you sit with the urge to text and don't, and survive it, your nervous system learned something it has never been taught before. You felt the spike of anxiety, you noticed it, you breathed, and nothing collapsed. That moment just changed something small and permanent inside you. You put the tests down for one day, didn't cancel plans to see if they'd chase, didn't go cold to see if they'd follow, and the relationship survived. That's new information. Someone is being genuinely warm to you, and instead of deflecting it, you just let it land. It felt strange. Strange means something is shifting. You said what you needed out loud, instead of hiding it in a hint and hoping, and it worked. And now you have to reconsider every relationship where you never tried that. The stable one felt boring, so you chose the exciting, unavailable one again. Except this time, you caught yourself mid-choice and stopped. You stayed in the uncomfortable conversation instead of shutting down. The relationship didn't end. Your nervous system was wrong about what would happen. You said something vulnerable, and you didn't immediately take it back. It stayed in the air, and the world didn't end. And that changes the math on everything. Someone gave to you without asking for anything back, and you just received it. No rush to balance it, no suspicion, just received it. Notice how unfamiliar that felt. Mid-argument, you realized you were not actually fighting with your partner. You were fighting with someone from 15 years ago, and you stopped. Trust isn't a feeling that shows up one day. It's a brick you lay, and then another, and you just laid one. You asked what you needed without apologizing for needing it. That is not a small thing. For your attachment style, that is enormous. They showed up consistently for 30 days, and instead of waiting for day 31 to prove you wrong, you chose to believe them. That choice is the work. You had a disagreement, and it didn't end in explosion or 3 days of silence. It ended in understanding. Your nervous system didn't know that was possible. You felt real intimacy for a second, not the relief of passing a test, not the high of being chased, actual intimacy, and you didn't run. Notice that. You sat in silence with your partner, and your brain didn't turn it into a threat. That is not nothing. For you, that is everything. What you spent years calling chemistry was your nervous system in full panic, racing heart, obsessive thoughts, the high of uncertainty. That was not love. That was survival mode. You felt the pull to create distance right in the middle of a genuinely good moment, and you felt it, named it, and stayed anyway. That is the work. You told them about your attachment style, you put the map on the table, and they leaned in instead of leaving. Remember this moment. 6 months ago, you would have already destroyed this, and you didn't. That is not luck. That is you. That is the direct result of every hard choice you made. Something is good and stable, and you are not waiting for it to fall apart. You are just in it, present. And that feeling has a name, and the name is secure. You are standing at the same crossroads you always stand at, but this time you are not the same person, and that difference is the only one that has ever mattered. The stable relationship felt boring because your nervous system thought love was supposed to hurt, and now you know what it was calling boring was actually called safe. You felt the anxiety spike, you put the phone down, you waited 10 seconds, and it passed. 10 seconds is how every real change in your life has ever started. A full week without manufactured crisis, no test, no push, no pull, just a relationship existing without you breaking it. Your nervous system survived. So did the relationship. You let someone see you without the armor, not all of it, just a piece, and they didn't leave. And your attachment style has no script for what happens next. Every relationship you look back on now makes sense in a way it never did before, not failure after failure, one pattern, one lesson arriving over and over until today. You are starting something new, and the old pattern is there. You can feel it, but for the first time, you are watching it instead of being it, and that gap is everything. Secure attachment is not something you either have or you don't. It is something you build, and you just picked up the first brick.